Hi, and welcome to my video on positive and negative trig ratios in different quadrants. Positive and negative trig ratios depends on the quadrants. First of all, let's label the quadrants in the diagram below. Q1, this is quadrant 1. Q1. This is quadrant 2. This is quadrant 3. And this is quadrant 4. I looked at that in relation to the different quadrants before in previous videos. Now what happens is that we have different quadrants, and then we start right here, 1, 2, 3, 4 quadrants. So what we do, if we have a point that lies, P has the coordinates of x, y, that lies in any quadrant, then what we have a terminal arm going out to that point, as we've seen in the previous videos. Then we have a circle that has this radius and goes around. So this is the radius of the circle. We drop a perpendicular to the x-axis. So the distance from here to here is the x value, which is this one. The distance from here to here is the y, which is this value. And notice the perpendicular is always to the x, and that's the radius. And what we do, this is the rotation that we have. This is the rotation along this arc to get to this point. And as a result, if you say that that's theta, then this angle in here is also the same size. This is the reference angle right here. And so we know that, and again, I'll take my sheet of paper, put my arm across. I take the sheet of paper, and this is what I have memorized. So I haven't memorized, but I just put it here to show you. Again, SOHCAHTOA, sine, opposite over hypotenuse, cos, adjacent over hypotenuse, tans, opposite over adjacent. And as a result of being a circle, so sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so it's the y over the r. Cos is the adjacent over hypotenuse, which is the x over r. And tan is the opposite over the adjacent, so which is the y over the x. And we do the cosecants, which are here, if you want. So you get right down to it, we have that the sine is the y over the r, and the cos is the x over the r, and the tan of theta is the y over the x. So again, that's the angle of rotation theta right there. Theta is the angle of rotation that's on the circumference of the circle. And as you know, that r is the radius. R is always positive. Always positive. And we have a point x, y, but I just want to mention, notice that the x is associated with the cos, and the y is associated with the sine. And the little way that I remembered, x is before y, so c is before x, c is before s. So cos is with the x, sine is with the y. That means that if this is a axis xy, so cos is going to be positive, where x is positive. So x is positive on this side. So x is positive here and here. So therefore, cos is going to be positive in quadrants 1 and 4, because cos is associated with the x. And cos is negative where x is negative. And that's, I never forget that. No matter what happens, cos is associated with the x. So x is negative on this side. X is positive on this side. So that means that cos is going to be negative in quadrant 2, and cos is going to be negative in quadrant 3. So cos is the x. So cos is negative in 2 and 3, positive in 1 and 4. Sine is associated with the y. sine is the y over the r. The r is always positive. So the sine is positive when y is positive. Sine is negative when y is negative. So this is the x and this is the y. X is positive here. X is negative on this side. Y is positive up here. And y is negative down here. So y is positive right here. So that means that if y is positive, that means sine is positive. And that means that y is positive up here. So that means sine is positive. So sine is positive, or y is positive, so it's in quadrants 1 and 2. So therefore, sine is negative down below. So sine is negative in quadrants 3 and 4. Again, take my time because this is very important. If you understand that cos is associated with dx, so therefore cos is positive where x is positive. Sine is associated with the y, therefore sine is positive where y is positive. And sine is negative where y is negative. And again, remembering this, you understand how everything works. And tan is the y over the x. So what happens is that tan is positive where y is plus and plus, or y is negative and a negative. So if tan is positive, where both signs are the same. So tan is positive, x is positive, this is x and this is y. So in this quadrant, tan is positive in this quadrant because x and y are both pluses. And y is negative down here. Y is positive up there. X is negative over here. So x is negative. Y is negative. So tan is positive in quadrants 1 and 3 because that's where both x's and y's are the same signs. And the way I do it, if tan is positive in quadrants 1 and 3, therefore tan must be negative in quadrants 2 and 4. Reason? Because in 2 and 4, the signs are different. That's negative and that's positive, gives you a negative fraction. And right here, x is positive, y is negative, so tan is negative. So tan is the y over the x, tan is positive, where both signs are the same. Okay, x is positive, x is negative, y is positive, y is negative. So notice that in this quadrant, sine is positive, cos is positive, and tan is positive. They're all positive in this quadrant. Notice all of them. And in this quadrant, sine is positive, cos is the x is negative, and tan is the y over the x is negative. And in this quadrant, sine is negative, because that's the y. Cos is negative, because that's the x. And tan is the y over the x is positive, because both of them are the same signs. And this quadrant, sine is negative, because that's the y. Cos is positive, because that's the x on this side. And tan is different signs, so tan is negative. And again, sine is associated with the y. Cos is associated with the x, and tan is the y over the x. Okay, let's continue. So, what we have, state the quadrants for each. Where is cos theta positive? So cos is associated with the x, so x is positive on this side, so x is positive in 1. This is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. So x is positive in 1 and 4. Cos is associated with the x again, so where's x negative? So if it's positive in 1 and 4, it must be negative in 2 and 3, the other ones. If sine is associated with the y is positive in 1 and 2, y is positive up, y is negative down. x is positive on this side, x is negative on this side. So y is positive in 1 and 2, it must be negative in 3 and 4. So where's it positive? So if you say where's positive, then it's negative in the other ones. Tan is positive always in quadrant 1 and in quadrant 3. Tan is associated with the y over the x, where the signs are the same. Tan is negative. If tan is positive in 1 and 3, it's negative in 2 and 4. Now, see if you can pause the video and work these out. State the quadrant for each theta. Where is cos positive? Cos is associated with the x. Cos is positive in 1 and 4. Sine is associated with the y. So where's y negative? Y is negative down below, so that's in 3 and 4. And which quadrant is here twice? Number 4. So in number 4, cos is positive, x is positive, sine is negative, yes, quadrant 4. So I do each one, and then I pick the one that's common. Tan is positive in 1. Tan is positive, x in 3, because that's where the x and y are the same signs. Cos, remember, tan is the y over the x, same signs. Cos is the x, where's x negative? In 2 and 3. X is negative in 2 and 3. So what one is the same? Quadrant 3 is where quadrant 3 has tan positive and cos negative. Cos is negative, we just figured out. Cos is the x, cos is negative in 2 and 3. Sine is negative in, sine is the y, where's y negative? In 3 and 4. And what quadrant is repeated? Quadrant 3 is repeated. Sine is positive, sine is the y, where's y positive? In 1 and 2, y is positive up. Tan is negative, tan is positive in 1 and 3, is negative in 2 and 4. What number is repeated? Quadrant 2. Quadrant 2 has sine positive. Yep, sine is positive, this is y. Tan is negative, different signs. Y is positive, x is positive, make sure to make that positive there. Cos is positive, and cos is the x. Cos is positive, x is positive on this side, so it's 1 and 4. Sine is positive, sine is the y, y is positive up, so it's 1 and 2. And where's everything positive? Always in quadrant 1. Everything is positive in quadrant 1. We got 2 pluses, and it's in quadrant 1. Okay. There are some rules that we can use to work this out very fast. And I'll discuss a couple of rules. The rules for positive and negative primary trig ratios. One rule is what they call CAS. The CAS is for cos, A is for all, S is for sine, and T is for tan. So that means, but the only thing about the CAS rule is for positive trig ratios. The CAS rule is for, again, positive ratios, positive trig ratios. The CAS rule is for the positive trig ratios, positive. But the CAS rule starts in quadrant 4. Then it goes to quadrant 1. Then S is going to, so you start C-A-S-T, but you start in quadrant 4. So that means that in quadrant, just fill it in like this. So C-A-S-T, the CAS rule, is you have it filled in. Now you can see where it's positive. So what you see right now is positive. And what you can't see is negative. So that means everything is positive in quadrant 1. This is quadrant 1. Oop, marked quadrant 1. This is quadrant 2. This is quadrant 3. This is quadrant 4. Notice I got to rub that out again. I made it a theta. Quadrant 1. I put a stroke to it, made a theta. Quadrants 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll do this one first with all these, or should I? Okay, don't make any difference. I'm going to explain this one then, and then I'll do these. I call this the Astc rule. Again, is for positive trig ratios. Again, is positive. But the only thing about Astc is that Astc, the A is still all, the S is still the sign, the T is the tan, and the C is the cos, still the same. But the Astc starts in quadrant 1. And I got another name for it. I call the Astc add sugar to coffee. Just another way to remember it. Astc stands for add sugar to coffee. Astc, add sugar to coffee. But it starts in quadrant 1, which is what I like about it. The cash rule that I learned many, many years ago started in quadrant 4. So I had to remember to start CAST here. But if you learn this one, or your teachers have introduced this one, or if you learned what? Cos is the X, sine is the Y, and tan is the Y over the X, then you, no matter what rule you got, you won't go wrong. But learning a rule, you got to be careful. So this is why I explained it with cos X, sine is Y, and tan is the Y over the X. Makes it easier to understand. But all, sine, tan, cos. So which rule you want to memorize, which rules your teacher talked about, it makes no difference as long as you know where. So add sugar to coffee, Astc rule, or cash rule, your choice. Or what is cos? Cos is associated with the X, what's sine associated with the Y, and what's tan associated with? Tan is the Y over the X. If you know that, again. So this either rule. This is the same. All, sine, tan, cos. All, sine, tan, cos. They're identical, except the name is just different. So your choice. So what's cos is positive? Cos is positive, 1. When you say positive, you can say 1. Sine is positive, 1. Tan is positive. When you say positive, you can automatically put a 1 in. But cos is also positive in quadrant 4. Again, quadrant, I got to be careful. See, I write theta. Quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. Again, just to make sure. Quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. I add them up right there. I'm not putting in this one again, but that's okay. So where's cos negative? Well, if cos is positive in 1 and 4, it must be negative in 2 and 3. If sine is positive in 1 and 2, sine is positive in 1 and 2. If sine is positive in 1 and 2, it must be negative in 3 and 4. Tan is positive in 1 and 3, tan. So if it's positive in 1 and 3, it got to be negative in the other ones, 2 and 4. So it's a good rule to know. Again, cos is X, sine is Y, tan is Y over X. Perfect. Or you can learn whatever rule you want, but they're all the same. State the quadrant for each. Here we go. Cos is negative. Well, cos is positive 1 and 4, so it's negative in 2 and 3. Sine is positive. Sine is positive in here and here, 1 and 2, so it's 1 and 2. So 2 is the quadrant where both of these are true. Tan is positive. Tan is positive in 1 and 3. Sine is negative. Sine is positive where? 1 and 2, negative in 3 and 4. 3 is the quadrant that both of these are true. 3, 3. Cos is positive. Cos is positive in 1 and 4. Tan is negative, or tan is positive in 1 and 3. Tan is negative in 2 and 4. 4 is the one repeated. Cos is positive, 1 and 4. Sine is positive, 1 and 2. So where are the ratios always positive? Quadrant 1. Automatic. Sine is negative. Sine is positive in 1 and 2, negative in 3 and 4. Tan is negative. Tan is positive in 1 and 3, must be negative in 2 and 4. What one's repeated? 4. Hopefully you know the AST rule, add sugar to coffee, or the cash rule. But if you use the cash rule, remember it starts in quadrant 4. If you use ASTC, add sugar to coffee, you start in quadrant 1, which you think that's the right spot to start. Start with quadrant 1, go to 2, go to 3, go to 4. What about the negative or negative reciprocal ratios? Reciprocal ratios. So remember, we bring this down. I got this memorized. Remember? And I write it down. I say sine is the, remember sine is the y over the r, cos is the x over the r, and tan is the y over the x. And the reciprocal is secant is the r over the y. C, I got an s. So this is sine, I got cosecant. This is cos, I got secant. This is the r over the x. And tan, reciprocal is cot, is x over y. So that's true, but I remember the rule for positive and negative. ASTC. Add sugar to coffee. Add sugar to coffee. I like this because I start in quadrant 1. All, sine, tan, cos, if I can spell cos. I haven't spelled enough, but I write it down wrong. So these are where they're positive. So everything is positive in quadrant 1. If sine is positive, that means cosecant is positive. If tan is positive, cot is positive. If cos is positive, then secant is positive. The reciprocals. So if a fraction is positive, if you got a fraction of 1/2, if you got a 1/2 fraction, its reciprocal is 2 over 1, so that's still positive. If a fraction is negative, negative 1/2, then its reciprocal is negative. So if a fraction is positive, its reciprocal is positive. If a fraction is negative, its reciprocal is negative. So here we go. Secant is the reciprocal of cos. So where's cos positive? Cos is secant is positive. Everything is positive in. Secant is cos is 1 and 4. Secant is negative. So if it's positive, remember secant is the reciprocal of cos. Secant is the reciprocal of cos. Cos is positive in 1 and 4. Therefore it's negative in 2 and 3. Remember this is quadrant 1. This is quadrant 2. This is quadrant 3. This is quadrant 4. Make sure. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So where's sine positive? Sine is positive in quadrant 1 and in quadrant 2. So if it's positive in 1 and 2, it must be negative in 3 and 4. Cot is the reciprocal of tan. Cot, reciprocal of tan. So tan is positive in 1 and 3. Therefore, it's negative in 2 and 4. And, again, let's do where there are doubles. Cot is positive. Cot is positive for tan is positive. tan is positive in 1 and 3. Secant is the reciprocal of cos. So where's cos negative? Cos is positive in 1 and 4, negative in 2 and 3. So quadrant 3 is the quadrant where cot is positive, secant is negative. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. Secant is the reciprocal of cos. So where's sine negative? Sine is positive in 1 and 2, so it's negative in 3 and 4. Cos is positive in 1. Cos is positive in 1 and 4, so which one is repeated? 4. Secant is the reciprocal of cos, so cos is negative. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine, so sine is negative. Cos is positive in 1 and 4, so it's negative in 2 and 3. Cosecant is sine. Sine is negative. Sine is positive in 1 and 2, so it's negative in 3 and 4. 3 is repeated. Cot is reciprocal of tan, so tan is negative. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine, again C and S. Tan is negative. Tan is positive in 1 and 3, so it's negative in 2 and 4. Cos, sine is positive in 1, guaranteed, and sine is positive in 2. So what quadrant repeated? 2. Secant is the reciprocal of cos. Cot is the reciprocal of tan. So where's cos positive? Cos is positive in 1 and 4. Tan is negative. Tan is positive in 1 and 3, negative in 2 and 4. 4 is the answer. And secant is positive. Again, I got it down here. Secant is the reciprocal of cos. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So where's cos positive? Cos is positive in 1 and 4. Sine is positive in 1 and 2. So both of them are positive, so that's guaranteed to be quadrant 1. And so, again, a good review, but learn the rule. Cos is associated with the x, sine is with the y, and tan is the y over the x. And if you learn the Astc Rule or ASTC, remember, write them down. All, first quadrant. Just to review that again once more. Just to review is what I do. Oh, what I trying to find that page now. Here it is. And remember, ASTC, all, sine, tan, cos. So cos is positive in, cos is associated with the x. So cos is positive in 1 and 4, negative in 2 and 3. Sine is positive in 1 and 2, negative in 3 and 4. Tan is positive in 1 and 3, negative in 2 and 4. And the reciprocals follow the same signs. And that's a review of where the trig ratios are positive and negative, both primaries and reciprocals. If you like my video, click the like button, the subscribe button, notification bell. Visit my math website, www.mathfullyexplained.com, to find more information about me, my videos, and the content. That's the content on my YouTube channel called Math Fully Explained. Thank you for viewing my video. Bye-bye.